just for my case here, I think other safeties that are in the Hall of Fame, and then you look at Brian Dawkins' stats, you'd be surprised by some of them. For example, Brian Dawkins has forced more fumbles than Easley, Ronnie Lott, Ron Woodson, Aeneas Williams, Sanders. He has more tackles than Aeneas Williams, Deion Sanders, and Kenny Easley. More sacks than any safety in NFL history. More Pro Bowls than Rob Woodson, Aeneas Williams, Kenny Easley, and Deion Sanders. First player with 30 interceptions and 30 fumbles forced in a career. And he's the only player in NFL history to have more than 25 interceptions, 25 forced fumbles, and 25 sacks.
That sounds like a Hall of Fame to me. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
How can he not be in the Hall of Fame yet?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. That sounds like a Hall of Fame to me. It does. That sounds like a Hall of Fame career. And I'm sure we will see Brian Dawkins in the Hall of Fame. Now, will it be next year, Brian? That's the thing that I want to know. What is your predictions for the NFL Hall of Fame class of 2018?
All right. 2018 has a lot of the finalists we see this year. A couple first ballot will make their way onto the finalists list. But the people who I think eventually get in are Don Coryell, Brian Dawkins, Alan Faneca, Paul Tagliabue, and then first ballot nominees Randy Moss and Ray Lewis.
I feel like that'd be competing for just as good as a draft class as this year. Seeing Randy Moss and seeing Ray Lewis in their first ballots, that'll definitely bring a lot of attention, especially from younger fans and fans from the 90s into that perspective. All right, Brian, that was a fantastic talk about the Hall of Fame. That was a very busy weekend for sure. But it doesn't stop there with the NFL. Although it was a very, very nice weekend, a lot of touching speeches by Terrell Davis and LT and Jason Taylor and all those guys. They're very touching speeches. But if you go down to the actual training camp this year, there's a lot of things going on too, and especially over here in the AFC East, especially with the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are having a crazy quarterback situation they were not expecting to have, that's for sure. Ryan Tannehill goes out with a partial ACL tear, and he's assumed to be out for the season. Miami goes out and signs Jay Cutler with a 1-year, $10 million deal. Cutler has worked with Gase before in Chicago. Cutler was chosen over Colin Kaepernick and Tim Tebow, and also Kyle Orton. That's what other people were talking about. Brian, what do you think about all this fiasco going on down in South Beach?
Well, I don't think I can fault them for taking Cutler over Tim Tebow or Kyle Orton, since both of them have been out of the league for a few years. Depending on how they feel about Matt Moore already in camp, taking on Kaepernick just to compete would be a lot, especially for a team that they really don't have a chance anyways. Nobody thinks that they can actually upend New England. So why not take the safe way out, take Cutler? Cutler and Tannehill really aren't that big of a difference. I think with Jay Ajayi, if he can come back from his concussion, I think he can go ahead and take the workload. Cutler can go ahead and flourish under Adam Gase or not. But I think they're still going to be in about the same boat, fighting for that 2-3 spot in the AFC East.
Do you see them with that fighting for that number 2 or 3 spot in the AFC East a wild card contention, or do you see it being just shy?
I would even say just shy. I would say they're looking more for the 6-7 wins this year. I think I would teams that they play have gotten better. Meanwhile, they have kind of stayed the same. They haven't upgraded their team much. So I don't even think they can get back to the 10 wins they had last year. I think they're going to fall more to the 6-7 range. That would be even with Ryan Tannehill behind center. I know that Jarvis Landry was being investigated and whatnot, but it looks like he's not going to be worrying about a suspension anytime soon, so they're still going to have their entire team. So I still say they're going to get 6-7 wins, but yeah, they'll stick around same boat with Buffalo for that second, third, and the AFC outside of wild card contention.
All right, well, talking about the teams they play, just real quick, we're going to get in depth with the AFC in our next episode at BenchCasters, going off predictions, and then the next episode after that we'll go NFC. But while we're on the conversation about the guys playing the Dolphins, the AFC East, we already basically know, who's going to be on top there with New England, barring something crazy, I'm sure. And then we were talking about Miami and Buffalo fighting for 2-3, and then you have the Jets in 4th. Now, do you think any of that will change? Now, is the Jets, what are they, tanking? What's going on with the Jets? The Patriots, are they even going to lose a game? Just a brief, 30 seconds, Brian. What do you think about the AFC East this year?
All right. Well, the Pats are going to lose one game. Falcons are going to get revenge. The Jets, there's no other way to go about it. They're tanking. With Angela out for this season, there's no way that they're going to even win 3-4 games. And then Bills are the Bills. They're about the same as they've been the last 2 years. So I don't think much is going to change there.
Okay. One little input there. Today, the Bills signed Anquan Bolden to a 1-year deal. Do you think that's going to do anything to the Bills season?
I think that's going to be great for the Bills this year. He's a touchdown getter. He's depth where they need it. It gives them an actual route runner, not just all speed. So I think that has the possibility of being a great signing.
And Sammy Watkins has a lot to prove as well. But we'll get into that on the next episode with the AFC predictions. Talking about New England, you're saying they're only going to lose one game. They haven't lost many games in the last 10 years, Brian. I'm sure that you can call them just like I call them, a super team. There's a couple super teams in the league, or I'm sorry, not the league, but in sports in general. When you talk about the New England Patriots, you talk about the Golden State Warriors, Alabama football when it comes to college, even UConn's women basketball. What do you think about super teams, Brian? And do you think that it's a fairness to the game? Does it get boring? Is it predictable? What do you think?
I honestly think it takes away from each of the sports. When you know one of the teams that are going to be in the finals every year, it kind of takes away from the entire season. There's not much you can do against teams that the front office just does it right. For most of the time, you have basketball, football, they have to still stay within the salary restrictions, so it's just the front office doing the right thing. As far as college, now that is a whole other subject. I don't think that Alabama football or UConn women's basketball is good for the sport at all, because basically you have the backups are better than most D1 schools. They give scholarships to 9th, 8th grade kids these days, and it really I don't know how they get away with recruiting all these players, but as soon as somebody goes down, they got another 4 or 5-star prospect to fill the void. So it really is disheartening to sit there and watch the whole college football season or college basketball season when UConn women ain't going to lose a game in the next 3 years, or Alabama might lose one game, but they're still going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that super teams, I agree with you 100%. Super teams are not good for the sport. It's too predictable, especially with college football. There's a 4-team playoff. You're basically already saying, hey, Bama's going to be there. When it comes to the UConn, I mean, it's same with basketball, NBA. The only games that matter are either the playoffs or March Madness. The regular season just becomes a bore, and it just for, fair weather fans, that might be a good thing. But when it comes to actual fans of the sport and you want to see the regular season, it's not there for you. It's just not good. All right, I want to go touch back to football. We already talked about Tannehill being hurt. Brian, there's been a lot of preseason injuries. I mean, a lot. It seems like it's been more than in the past couple of years. And there's been talks about, minimizing the preseason games. Coaches are doing it on their own. I mean, if you look at the Hall of Fame game, Bruce Arians didn't play any of his starters against the Cowboys for the Hall of Fame game. What do you think about all these, preseason injuries? And let's talk about some of the big ones as well.
Yeah, the preseason and the offseason in general, it's really crushing teams. I don't know why it seems like there's more injuries year after year. This year seems like there's more than last year or the year before. And I don't know if it's because they're not allowed to do as much. They're not allowed to be in as good a shape. So when they finally do hit the field, all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, my body's not ready for this. And they pull a hamstring. They tweak knees, groins. We're seeing a lot of backs, too. I don't know really what the problem is and how come we're seeing more and more, but we are. For example, there's two teams specifically that have a lot of players on IR already. The New York Jets have 5 players that are out for the season already. Baltimore has 6 that are already out for the season. The New York Jets, seen a new law be put on IR, their top receiver. They don't have many options besides that. They also try to claim Bruce Ellington off a waiver, and he failed the physical, so he can't be on their team. Then they look for their number 1 overall, or their number 1 pick, Jamal Adams, and he's been at some practices. Then you go to somewhere like Baltimore. They have 4 tight ends that have been injured this preseason. I don't know if it's a curse on the position in Baltimore, but it's not good. They have 2 that are on IR. They're done for the season. They're missing one of their top cornerbacks. He's on IR. Flacco's out 4 to 8 weeks, and their backup right now, it looks awful. So Baltimore's another one that's really hurting on these injuries. Los Angeles Chargers is seeing their first 2 picks go down. Mike Williams, the wide receiver from Clemson, and Forrest Lamp, the guard, are both on IR. New Orleans Saints are another team that's under the radar, but taking a bad hit. They have Nick Fairley that's out for the season. There's top tackle, Karen Armstead, out for the season. Max Unger is out for the season. Marshawn Lattimore and Colby Fleener have been out and questionable for the rest of the preseason. Then we got Indianapolis. Luck's on the PUP list, and they have 2 others on IR. Luck being on that PUP list is, I don't know how people aren't talking about that, because that's pretty scary. What does that offense have without Andrew Luck?
I mean,
so
I think they proved it.
Really,
I think they proved that last year with Andrew Luck when he was hurt in the year. I think was it last year, or the year before, when Hasselbeck came in.
2 years ago, Hasselbeck had to come in and play a couple games. He did all right for an old man.
Yeah, he didn't do bad. He was definitely better in Seattle than he was in Indianapolis, but he wasn't bad. But he was no Andrew Luck with that Indianapolis Colts offense.
Yeah, there's 46 that are out for the season or have been cut and given an injury money for being cut for the team already this year. 46.
That's insane. I'd love to hear what the number was last year at this time. I'm sure it's not at 46. We're going to look into that, and we're going to tell you next episode.
We're not even through the first week of preseason yet. We're through 1 game of the preseason.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. There's got to be a way that the league can change the preseason